to unpack back-to-back episodes of exclusive content. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Darren Millard. Proud to say that I survived my first go-around at Tendyfest. And a big thank you and congratulations to the team at the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports Surrey, and the hockeyshop.com for a fabulous few hours at 8 rinks. When I first got there, I thought, how is this ever going to happen in 4 or 5 hours? And somehow it occurred. Let's bring in the co-founders of InGoal magazine, David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley. And that was my first experience of Tendyfest. You guys have been there a few times. How did 2019 rate compared to previous years? Hutch?
Time flies when you're having fun. Boy, did that day go by fast. I was amazed as we rolled up there as early as we were pretty much allowed to get in the building to set up, and there was a lineup of goaltenders waiting to grab some gear and get on the ice. So it was a fantastic day. Definitely could see how the extra sheet of ice made a huge difference. Not quite the same sort of lineups. I spoke to a few young folks who tried out 5-6 different pieces of equipment in the various sessions. So I think it was a real hit from that perspective. And from our own, wasn't it fantastic to talk to listeners of the podcast? Amazing to really finally connect one-on-one, even though we saw this as a way of reconnecting with people. So fantastic day for me on all fronts. How about you guys?
Yeah, I think for me it was all about the 2 sheets. Adding an extra sheet of ice, and to me that's all about the Hockey Shop, always trying to take it to another level. And we had guys telling us that it was like a 5-minute wait to get on the ice, and in past years we've seen them lined up for, a lot longer than that, close to half an hour. And so that gave goalies the opportunity, as you said, Hutch, to try multiple sets of gear without stress. And yet we still managed to draw a crowd when we did the live podcast. So they got them off the ice in time to listen to us yak for a while at the end.
So let people know, we have some pictures up on the social, the postings on InGoal, but there was an indoor soccer field where there was manufacturers like Bauer and CCM. Vaughn was there, Warrior was there, Brian's was there, the Hockey Shop had a great setup there, and people were just coming and going, trying on skates and pads and gloves, and then they would go over to a couple of sheets of ice at this facility in Canlan and Burnaby, 8 rinks in Burnaby, and test it out. It was a pretty smooth operation.
It was, and you know what I thought was just fantastic was there were a lot of people there that weren't even there to try out the gear. Just happy to soak in the atmosphere. We're there right from the beginning, right through to the end, sitting front row in the podcast and chatting with us. I was amazed how many people I actually spoke to who didn't bring gear and just wanted to be part of something, part of the goalie union. So what a day.
And we had the great InGoal setup as well, a booth, and there was backup goalie towels. Hutch, great job on that. Woody, congratulations. Some stickers as well, and some sticks and some different paraphernalia. So InGoal well represented it. And then we got the chance to step onto the stage, which I don't think has happened in the past, where we stepped in and did a live podcast, which what we're going to share with everybody today. The different interviews that we had a chance to do, and that kind of helped bridge the gap. And one of the people that just happened to show up, like we knew we were going to talk to the Bauer guys and talk to Alex Ald from CCM, who will bring you next week. But Tristan Jarry is an accomplished major junior product and now part of the Pittsburgh Penguins organization, works with Andy Kyoto in the Penguins. And Tristan Jarry wears Vaughn, and he's a lower mainline guy and just made an appearance. Didn't know he was coming, so Vaughn allowed him to join us, and he hung out with us as his good buddy Derek Pouliot, Canuck defenseman, sat in the crowd. Now, that was a little different, Woody, for you to have Pouliot watching you, where normally you're interviewing him or hanging around talking to Canuck players.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. It's being on stage was, like, for you, no problem, Darren, right? Like, used to bright lights and big crowds. Me, I was a little more nervous. Like, talking to you guys on the podcast, doing my radio hits, in different cities during the week, no big deal. I don't see anybody, but actually being there with an audience is a little more nerve-wracking. And when that audience includes an NHL player like Derek Pouliot who obviously I know a little bit, but won't pretend well at all. But from the Canucks media side of things, covering the Canucks and being in the locker room, and he obviously played 2 years in Wilkes-Barre with Tristan Jarry. Having him be part of that audience as you're doing the interview, it's that much more nerve-wracking. So yeah, you felt like maybe a fraction, a tiny fraction of what it must be like to play in front of an audience.
I thought you were going to say do a concert or be a musician and up there owning an arena. Well, it was an indoor soccer facility, so you got to start somewhere. We're going to bring you a lot of the content from Tendyfest 2019. Mark Dekanich will join us in just a little bit. We'll also have the representatives from Bauer and their goalie line on this episode of InGoal Radio, the podcast. But we start off with Tristan Jarry, and this conversation spans everything from the gear that he uses, and we had to help him out a little bit on that, to what he does when he faces the likes of Sidney Crosby and Jenny Malkin, and then there's also going for the goal. Here's Tristan Jarry on InGoal Radio, the podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, direct your attention towards the stage. We're going to give you a brief glimpse inside of what to expect at 1:30 with the InGoal Radio podcast, a live taping. I'm Darren Millard, along with Kevin Woodley, co-founder of InGoal Magazine, and we are pleased to welcome up to the stage Tristan Jarry, former Edmonton Oil King, Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguin, and Pittsburgh Penguin, who's joined us today. You're younger than us, so you've experienced the evolution of the goaltending climate recently. What do you think of this and Tendyfest?
Yeah, it's great. I've never had this growing up, being able to see all the different types of gear and having the opportunity to wear whatever you want at any point. I think it's great. Growing up, all we had was being able to go to the store and basically pick what you'd like to wear.
Have you always worn so you're a Vaughn? Have you always worn Vaughn?
I switched over to Bauer for a couple of years, and then when I started playing junior hockey and pro hockey, I switched back to Vaughn.
And your setup right now, what is it?
I was warned he might not know.
That's a tough question. I think I wear the Ventus pads with an older Vaughn chest protector.
And mask?
I wear a pro-choice mask, Vaughn.
And who does your painting and what's on it?
Jason Bartozak, and then I have Tom and Jerry on my helmet.
And that's been a while, right?
Yeah, I've had Tom and Jerry on for probably almost 10 years now.
Nice. I guess low-key one of the best masks in the league, and I think Jason might be one of the most overlooked or underrated mask painters in the league. I'm surprised we don't see more guys. You've had him since the WHL, right?
Yeah, I started with him when I was 16 years old, and he's done such a great job for me that I've kept going back, and he always comes up with something great every year.
Nice. Why did you pick the position, or did it pick you?
I think it all started back in minor hockey. We had a rotation throughout the team, and my dad was the manager, and he always happened to have the goalie gear. So we had hockey camps and goalie camps in our initiation. So I always wanted to skate and have extra ice. So having the opportunity with the goalie gear, I just went out with that.
Did you fall in love with it at first, or was it a gradual progression?
I think it was more of a gradual progression. I liked skating, and I liked being able to be with the players and score goals. But I think as I grew up playing spring hockey, it was a lot more fun and a lot more interesting for me.
Would you consider yourself a normal goalie or a goalie?
Hopefully a normal goalie.
We should ask one of your former teammates watching from the back slyly. Is he normal? For the most part, that's not bad. When did you become full-time? When did goaltending become the thing and you couldn't? How long did you play out for as well?
Probably till my first or second year of Pee Wee is when I stopped switching between goalie and player, mostly in spring hockey. I always played spring hockey as a goalie, and then I played my minor hockey as a forward. So
that's, this day and age, there's parents listening whose kids are sort of sometimes forced to make a decision as young as 8 and 9. You're still playing forward into, I don't have kids in hockey, so Pee Wee's 12, 13 in that range?
Yeah, I think it was 11 or 12 when I switched over full time.
Where's the as a goaltender now at the highest level, how much did playing forward for that much luck, do you feel that benefited you? Reading the game, getting to a feel for the game as a goalie, playing out for that long?
Yeah, I think it was just something I enjoyed. I love playing both positions, and I think that my parents were able to give me the opportunity to play both positions, so it was something that I did for as long as I could. And then when it came to the point where I had to make the decision, it was my parents let me choose either or. They never forced me into one or the other, and I think that was something I'll always be able to benefit from, being able to skate like I do, and the things that I'm able to see is a goalie. I think I get that from when I was playing a player.
So would you list that as one of your strengths, the mobility? And I've talked to some of your goalie coaches over the years about that ability to be a real mobile, active, good skater. Where does that rank on the skill set list of what's important for you?
I think it's huge. I think being able to skate is a big part of the game, and being able to get yourself out of positions that you might get caught in. Like, you're never able to know what you're going to be in, or the positions that you get stuck in sometimes. So I think that always helps.
Have you seen it become more important as the game's gotten more dynamic offensively at the highest levels for you in the AHL and in the National Hockey League?
Yeah, the game's fast. People are getting faster and stronger every day, and the game moves so fast that sometimes that you're a little behind. So I think skating is always a strength and something that always helps you put yourself one step closer to making that next movement or that next save.
What about puck handling?
Puck handling is something I've always enjoyed growing up. Is something that I've taken a part of my game, and it's something that I think helps a lot. It helps when your players are going back and they don't always see what you see, because you're focusing on the whole ice and you're seeing what's up ice. And I think that helps them when they're coming back, when they have their back turned, and you're able to help them and decide for them what they're going to do.
What's the key to taking a puck off a rim around and being able to stop that thing? So many people have it just slip by off the edge of the stick, and you pros seem to be able to just stop it right there and make that little pass.
I think it's just getting out there and making sure that you know what you're going to do before you get the puck. I think that's always a big thing, is you can't have that hesitation or that doubt whether you're going to be able to stop it, and if you do stop it, what you're going to do with it. So I think just knowing what you're going to do before you get out there and before you handle the puck.
Have you had a chance to score?
I actually scored this year, yes.
Did you?
Yeah.
I missed that then. Were you looking for it? Have you had the shot before? And how did it come about?
I've been looking for it for a while. Ever since
Look at the smile on your face, like you're.
Ever since I've been playing pro hockey, I've tried it. So it's.
How many shots have you taken?
This year I took 5, I think.
5 empty net shots.
I got 2. I scored 1 in the first game of the season, and then I got called off because we got a penalty. And then the second one I scored in Springfield.
Wow. Where's the puck?
In a glass case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that as good as your first win puck? Or
I don't think so.
It's pretty cool.
I think the first win will always be one of the coolest things.
What was a bigger adjustment, going from minor midget to junior, or junior to pro?
I think junior to pro. There's so much of an age difference and a body composition difference between playing junior hockey and going to pro, where you have guys that are 16 to 20 years old in junior hockey, and then going from pro, you have anywhere from 18 to 40 years old. You're playing with men, and they all know how to shoot, and they're all tough, and they all have the strength. So I think that was the biggest change for me.
What about influence from a goalie coach standpoint? Who are some of the guys? I know there's a few, even in this room, that you worked with growing up. Who are some of the bigger influences on your career as a young guy, and then going up through junior and now into pro?
Yeah, starting minor hockey, Angelo Maggio with Magic in the Net. He was always there, and he helped in our minor hockey, and that was one of the things that got me starting playing goalie. Him and Angelo and Donnie coming out, and I think it was once a week on Tuesday or Wednesday, and that was what got me wanting to play goalie. It was fun, and it was always something that challenged me, and I loved to be challenged as a kid growing up. And then I worked with them for probably 10 to 15 years after that. And it was something that I'll always be grateful, and that's where I get all my skating from.
So you're making them blush over there. I didn't think that was possible. So then you go into junior, and who's your coach with the Oil Kings? Is that Dusty Schwartz at that point?
Yeah, I had Dustin Schwartz in junior hockey and now with the Edmonton Oilers, and I think that was a great thing. He was never somebody that pushed me that you had to play a certain way or do something a certain way. Every person's different, and every person has their own feel to their game, so I think that always helped.
And then in with the Penguins, was it Mike Buckley a couple of years ago? And like, how does the message change? Are they trying to change your game as you become a pro, or are they just trying to reinforce what you do well? How does the evolution of goaltending coaches for you follow your evolution as a goaltender?
I think it's just about learning the game and being able to adjust to what you see during the game. The game's always changing, like you see in the past 10 to 15 years, even the last 5 years, how much has changed and how well younger kids are moving, and even all the older guys have to catch up at some point. So I think it's something that you're always learning and you're always trying new things, and you have to find what works for you and what is able to give you success.
Game day routine. What's that like for you when you get to the rink after the morning skate? So you're back. How do you process and get ready for a game that you're starting?
I usually skate in the morning, so I'll get to the rink about 8 in the morning, and then we'll skate at 9:30 or 10, depending if you're the home or the away team. And then you eat lunch or your dinner right after your skate, which is about 11 or 12, and that'll last you till your game, and then you'll have a nap. I usually nap for around 2 hours. And then I'll wake up, have a snack, and I'll head to the rink and start my routine.
And what's that routine?
A little bit of visualization and then warming up. And
Visualization. Take me through what that thought process is.
Just seeing myself making saves, making sure that I'm focused and my eyes are wide. I'm making sure that I can see the puck and I'm seeing things hit me. I'm making sure that I'm as confident as I need to be. And I think that's a big thing, is you're by yourself quite a bit during the game, so you need to make sure your thoughts are all in line and making sure that you could see yourself being successful and as confident as what you need for the game.
And then you get ready, you get dressed?
Yes, I get dressed and I'll hydrate a lot. I think that's a big thing. Like, we're all supplied by BioSteel, so we all have a lot of BioSteel in our room, and that usually gets us through the game.
Rituals, superstitions. Do you have any?
I can't say I do. I just get dressed and then go out there.
You are normal.
I hope so.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say warm-ups. So you got like a lot of parents, young goalies here, a lot of beer leaguers out here trying. What do you want as a goaltender in warm-ups at the highest level? I think the rest of us amateurs have to put up with a bunch of crap. Guys like going bar down, buzzing the tower. Do you have to put up with that in practice probably? How was that guy? How was Derek for warm-ups? Did he buzz the tower all the time, bar down on you? Or are guys pretty good about respecting pre-game, getting you into your rhythm?
I never really worried about that. I was somebody that always wanted to challenge the shooters. I always want them to, if they think they could score bar down, I want them to go bar down. That was something that I always had in my mindset. I've never gotten mad at somebody for shooting a spot that they thought they could score on. I think for me, that just improved my game and it helped me get better. I never decided that, hey, you can only shoot in this spot when I'm warming up. It was something that if he wants to try and score to make me better, I'm going to let him score so he could be better.
Who would you rather face, Sid or Malkin, to win?
Both very different players. Malkin's more of a finesse player. And then he's got his hard slap shot, and Sid is a very accurate shooter. He's got a hard shot, and they're both very tough. I think it'd be hard to pick, but
Sid's got that backhand too, right?
They both do.
Yeah, it's amazing. Tristan Jarry, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
It's weird. It makes you feel old, but I knew Tristan when he was the backup to Laurent Brossoit in Edmonton, and now you've watched him come up. And wasn't that fascinating, Woody, talking about Tristan going for the goal and how he took 5 different cracks at it this year. He scored the one, but right out of the gate had that chance in game number 1. And was it Dustin Tokarski who threw his stick and negated the goal?
Yeah, he said it was Tokarski that threw his stick and prevented him from scoring the first time. And as we kind of said to him, we were talking informally after when going through this story, and my question was, well, shouldn't it be an automatic goal then if the goalie throws a stick? But at the same time, is that how you want it to go? Right? That's kind of like That's kind of like the goal we had the other week. I think it was Legacy with the Chicago Wolves, the Vegas prospect, where he gets credit for a goal in the American Hockey League playoffs, but just basically because the other team passed the puck into their own net and his save was the last touch by his team. You don't want it that way. You want to fire the puck the length of the ice and have it go into the net. So after getting jobbed on his first one, Jarry banged his second one in, and that's a pretty, as much as he said first win in the NHL is a bigger deal, scoring a goal is a far more exclusive club, and he's a member of it.
And he also did the line, the high fives along the bench. The teammates made him do that.
Right,
so
he showed us that picture after.
Cool.
That was pretty cool to see that.
He's made some progress here. A good friend of InGoal magazine, Andy Chiodo, is a big part of what's going on with Tristan right now. Hutch.
Yeah, the developmental coach for the Penguins works with Tristan, and we just happened to catch up with him the day after Tendyfest, and I hadn't been a part of that conversation that the two of you had with Tristan. So it was interesting just to sit in and listen to Kevin to talk to him. And Kevin, you had something I thought pretty impressive to say just about him as a person and how giving he was in that interview.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, the reality of professional athletes and their time is it's valuable. And sometimes as they get more established, they take that value, how can we say, I shouldn't say a little too seriously, because I don't mean it to be disrespectful, but
they're protective.
Yeah, and understandably so. But Tristan was supposed to be out of there by 1:00, and we didn't start the interview till 10:01. We went at least 5 minutes after, and then so I was worried about getting him out of there, right? Because he was supposed to be out by 1:00, and he's got Derek Pouliot, his buddy, waiting in the crowd. And again, we'd run long, and I was apologetic. He's like, "Don't worry," and then he sat there and just talked to us and. Talk to us about the goal, Darren, about the season, about things that had gone on, about the goalie coaches, guys that he'd worked with in Vancouver that he mentioned in the podcast. And one guy he didn't get a chance to mention that we probably should is the guy he works in the off season with now here in Vancouver, Paul Fricker. So, making sure that he's spreading the love around to the guys he works with and just generally being a nice guy and not at all in a rush to get out of there. Professional, courteous, polite, just all the things you want to hear as a goalie coach like Andy Chiodo when you call to see how it went with your guys. So it was a pleasure to pass along positive feedback because it was a pleasurable experience to get to talk to Tristan.
I didn't know he was there, and I don't know whether it was Cam or Chad came over from the hockey shop and said, Tristan Jarry's here if you guys have an opportunity to chat with him. And like he was just blending in with everybody else, chatting away, and there was no aura of that's an NHL player. He was just a regular guy out there. And what I thought was cool, I don't know whether you guys saw it when he was leaving Tendyfest, he had his mask and I think one pad there, and they were just walking out with his equipment, just like anybody else. It was just a cool little moment. And he does wear the Vaughn, and you just want to give us an idea of what he's wearing now?
SLR2. The boys at Vaughn wanted to make sure we knew that because Tristan didn't, and this is how it goes. This isn't about him not being dialed into his equipment in any way, shape, or form. And we talked about this, you remember the first podcast we did, guys, with Sonia DiBiase, how this trend of young goalies not really knowing their gear is something we're seeing more and more of. But in Tristan's case, it's not so much that he doesn't know his gear, it's that he's had it made a specific way for so many years that they just kind of continued to progress it with the new lines, but still sort of build his specs within it. And that's the case here where, he doesn't necessarily know what the new line is, and officially it is the SLR2, but it's got his specs tied into that new line. So yes, despite the fact he couldn't name it, he's in the latest Vaughn SLR2 line.
Well, the only reason he's in the SLR2 line is because they stopped making his other line, right? Like he's just a comfortable guy and basically whatever works for him.
Well, yeah, and he talked about that with us after the podcast as well, right?
Yeah.
Just informally and onto the side, and we see that too, where guys get used to something and the line evolves and they evolve with it.
Hutch, why weren't you with us for that interview?
Stage fright. Totally.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. No, just having a really good conversation with some of the folks at Bauer about their customer experience analysis, how they get feedback from their customers, how they get feedback from clients, and frankly, to see if there's a way that we can support them, because we're in touch with all sorts of those folks. So just a really interesting conversation, and one that's going to progress so that we can, I hope, support each other in learning more about the goaltending community.
Bauer had a massive fleet of gear on hand at Tendyfest 2019, and the brand manager of goal, Spencer Freer, and Mark Gignac, the category manager of goal at Bauer, also known as Spencer's boss, took time out after they were done twisting the ear and bending the ear of one David Hutchison, stepped on stage and decided to spend some time or subject themselves to some time with Woody and I. So here is Spencer and Mark from Bauer Hockey and Bauer Goal on the InGoal Radio podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back up at the InGoal Radio podcast, which is a live edition today at Tendyfest. Darren Millard along with Kevin Woodley, who's got the Andre Vasilevsky signed stick. And here from Bauer, Spencer and Mark, who have a little bit of a road show that they do. Dinners, sportsmen's dinners, a lot of speaking engagements. You guys have a full act, right?
Yeah, full schedule. You got to book in advance.
Yeah.
Make sure you get us on the
Okay,
list.
which one's Spencer and which one's Mark?
I'm Spencer.
Yes.
It's really hard to tell because
Yeah.
we both have beards and nice hair.
Yes.
But I'm Mark.
And the reason why I have a beard is because Mark told me I couldn't grow one. So I was like, I'm going to do it anyways. And it infuriated him. So it's basically out of spite.
Your job's at Bauer.
Yeah. So we are the brand managers. So basically, we work with the R&D team, work with the teams just about go through product development.
Yep. And what's unique at Bauer is we're the goalie guys. So we handle everything from retail. We work with our pro reps, kind of oversee everything, as well as experience tours like this. So it's really holistic within Bauer, everything goalie.
The journey for Bauer and Goal. Because you guys have changed the way you build pads, the way you build your equipment. How far along are we since you just took everything down to the wood?
So we're going into the fourth iteration of what really was born as the Odin project. So it was 2015, we started a kind of a concept car idea of if you took all the restrictions of a timeline, costing and everything involved in building goalie pads, what could you do and what would you do? And we came up with a new way of building a one-piece skin that we really worked with Henrik Lundqvist on at the Sochi Olympics. So from there, we've worked to perfect it and make sure we keep that performance level, but enhance the durability and make a better pad that's great slidability, crazy rebound pop, and very lightweight.
And when you guys started, though, the original concept was to kill a rebound.
Exactly. And it was Ilya Brizgalov who, funny enough, saw the prototype concept and thought we were absolutely crazy. When we started working with Henrik Lundqvist on the next iteration, he started to see his rebounds were flying off his pads, and the shooters at practice were saying, hey, man, I can't pick up that second chance. I can't pick up that rebound. It's flying out of the zone instead of trying to kill it. So that's where we shifted gears and started to focus on rebound pop instead of trying to kill it.
Were you worried at any point? I mean, when Ilya Brizgalov calls you crazy,
Yeah.
is that a point where you start to worry you're on the right track?
That was around the same time the rails came off with Philly and the moon talk and everything going on.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it was good shift to focus on Henrik Lundqvist.
Something, though, that was pretty surprising was when we started to get the feedback from the goalie coaches. That's when we kind of knew we were really onto something, because feedback from an NHL player is great, but they're NHL players and they're definitely better goalies than the majority of people. So when we started to get the feedback from goalie coaches that that's something you should be looking for, is eliminating the second shot, it was when we knew, like, oh, we're really onto it now.
So how many people does it take before you guys transition from we want to kill a rebound to this is actually we're going down a path where this might be legit.
Yeah. It was what really took off was when we started to work with younger OHL goalies. So we started seeding all of them and getting their feedback as well. Like Spencer said, we want that top end, but then what's that second tier elite goalie saying? And every kid was coming off the ice saying the exact same thing. So that's when it took for us. It was, okay, let's pursue this and perfect it where we can. But it was really those goalies, and then word of mouth, it kind of spread like wildfire of kids talking to each other. And it was really the OHL goalies that helped us perfect that.
Okay, I want to get into the sliding as well, but a quick message to everybody who's in attendance here. As we said, we are going to give away an autographed Andre Vasilevsky stick. We've had a few people come by the InGoal booth and ask us how we're going to give it away. The only hint I'm going to give you is that you need to be in one of these seats. So for everybody that's kind of mingling around, maybe find one before they disappear. That's all I'll say for now.
Packed house. That's crowd the audience in a bit.
Yeah, I heard you were coming. Slidability, though. So you're working in this sort of concept car environment. You're going to build a pad a different way. The rebounds are active. Was the sliding a natural byproduct? The less friction a natural byproduct of the materials we were using, or something you consciously sought to achieve?
Yeah, it was kind of an evolution from we wanted to make the goalie lighter to get side to side. So we use new materials instead of leather. But what they're telling us, yeah, it's great, I'm light, but I'm so much quicker because it's sliding better. There's no friction. So it was a big benefit. And the original brief was lightweight, crazy design. And the end result was rebound, pop, and slidability, which is really the benefit of working with the goalies and the feedback they gave us.
And that process to get from there to, because there, I mean, you know, in the goalie world and the goalie community behind the scenes, we heard these rumblings that this was coming, but you don't just snap your fingers and rebuild how a product is designed and built and get it to market. How long did that take?
I always like to say people think we're making muffins in the back, when in reality, there's a ton of development, but it was an expedited process because we did the press release on Odin, and there's so much hype of what is this, and goalies were actually excited for a new innovation. We had to speed things up, almost cutting our timeline in half. So it was very quick to market. 2015, Henrik wore it during the season, and then we were launching April of 2016. So pretty crazy. Took a couple of years off our lives.
Oh, yeah, no.
Spenny got shingles. I developed a twitch in my eye. Some other issues, but
you're goalie, so that people just think that's part
exactly.
of that fix.
No, exactly. Yeah, no.
But that speed forced us to be on our game, collect feedback, and make each iteration since then even better.
How involved is a guy like Henrik Lundqvist in the process, and what kind of interactions do you guys have with them?
I think it's a balancing act. All of our pros have great feedback. Vasilevsky, Doobie, you worked a lot with Kevin. So Henrik was huge off the start to get the thing off the ground. And then it was trying to build something that could still fit all goalies, not just Henrik, because he had very unique specs. So we used a lot of our pros to get feedback on the knee block, the strapping. Freddie Anderson was the first guy who jumped in it, who switched a brand to join Bauer. So he was instrumental in building in some of those tweaks. And all of that feedback is actually translated to new designs and new products as well. Because you want to hear what the pros say, but you want to make sure it works for that 12, 13-year-old legit little goalie as well.
So where are you on that journey? Are you now at a place where we're stable and you might not see as many big tweaks going forward, or are you still making leaps and bounds?
I think it depends on category each year. Is that we try to focus, you know what, like for 2019, we really wanted to focus on durability, but also we called it the glove year. We said, you know what, for 2017, for the 2X Pro, we really want to focus on our glove. So a lot of the innovation and a lot of focus goes into the glove. So it just depends year to year on what those things are. But I think where we're at now, we always want to innovate. And if there's opportunity to have that wow factor, like we always want it. But that being said, as we start to streamline and really start to get a lot more goalies, we want to make sure that we're keeping and always getting new goalies as well.
Question about sizing. Most of us have grown up with numbers, whether it used to be just a number and then it was plus, a number plus. And Bauer has gone to a different model. Can you walk us through that?
So another concept on the 2016 Odin project was to change the thinking on everything. So go back to the well on strapping, sizing was one of those things. And we said, hey, every brand's measurement is different and everyone's within range of each other, but our 34 was different than everyone else's and how the thigh rise plays. So we wanted to change the concept and say, hey, you should go to a store and get properly fit. the end result and that label may mean you're a Bauer medium or another brand 34, but at the end of the day, it's about reset how you get fit, go to a place like the hockey shop, get properly fit for your gear, and take that preconceived notion of measurement number out of the equation.
Was that tough to sell, like going to a small, medium, large?
For sure, especially events like this, where
Not mean sell to the consumer, but sell in amongst yourselves as a philosophy.
Well, as we talked about a little bit, it was about as well aligning chest protector size with pants. Those mediums don't always align those two things, but that's when we started to realize that, you know what, if we can start to marry all of those together, then we think that there's something there and we think it'll catch on. And that's kind of as year 4 of it.
Yeah. Although there have been some conference calls that get a little heated.
Yeah.
And some meetings within the R&D facility where we've broken some sticks over some posts, but that's water under the bridge.
Because it's terminology, right? Parents might understand what a small, medium, large means, but the athlete's like, no, I need a 30
Exactly.
two.
And we created that monster when it went to LDS sizing. The NHL revamped all of those.
What did you do?
LDS, so limited distance sizing on the NHL rule.
Yeah.
You created a very specific niche of, you wanted to know your exact specifications, whereas Henrik was still size large. So where it comes into play is more, we kind of created the monster of this 34 plus 1 plus 2, where it sizes up. But we said, like Spencer said, get it to be simple for mom and dad to help the shopping process and then start that fit from the beginning.
Skin. The custom skin
that
we see, like Henrik had it at the World. You guys turned around like that. What's the weirdest thing you guys have been asked to put on a pad?
Oh God,
that's a good question.
We have a lot of.
It's a family show.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm actually the brand standard person, so every one that gets sent through is sent through me. So I do the check approval. So nothing's been too crazy. A lot of camo. Yeah. But then I send it back telling people that there's no pads in the picture. So you see how long that takes for people to realize.
Was that a joke? The crowd didn't really pick up on that.
Right over our heads.
Maybe his mic's not working.
Maybe mic's not on. But yeah, no, there hasn't been anything too great. We're also very early. Some of the biggest adopters that we've seen is definitely Europe, is no longer sticking ads on pads, that we're working with the teams to provide us the logos, and then they'll put the team sponsorship that they have right on the pad instead of a traditional graphic. So that's been pretty cool to see so far.
Well, walk us through that. We just kind of introduced it, but it's called True Design.
Yep.
It just launched May 17th, so I'm really bad at math, but that's just like a week and a bit ago. So
we had it. We wanted to make sure it was ready for the masses to be able to order. So we staffed up with 2 in-house designers that are constantly focused on just creative designs for the goalie pads. And it's the pros really were our testing ground. And we saw all things from pretty subtle, like Doobie has a nice graphic he developed himself with our designer, whereas Henrik's always very fashion forward and kind of a crazier design. So we wanted to perfect that before we brought it to retail. So now Europe's up and running. They're slamming through it, and we're getting more and more requests from retail. What's cool is the sky's the limit. You can create any design you want, but it doesn't add weight. It doesn't affect the slidability of the rebound pop. It doesn't hinder the performance of the pad.
It's almost like building a mask, right? Like that's kind of the equivalent. You can add, we've always as goaltenders had that ability to bring our personality to our equipment on the mask. Now you can do it pads and gloves, matching, and pretty much, like you said, anything you want, you can put it on there.
Do you guys both play?
Yeah, we're men's league superstars.
So here's the best though. So this time last year, Mark had hip surgery, and I actually was playing player like an idiot in October, and I blew out my knee. So it's just been an absolute roller coaster of injuries right now. So we're finally both off crutches.
Yep.
And Mark is the more accomplished. He won his men's league 3. What'd you call it?
It was a 3-peat. It was the triple crown of men's league. So the local tournament, the away tournament, and the league itself. Yeah. So we're pretty accomplished.
All in Central Ontario, the 519, as he calls it. So
the 519.
519.
Mark's also exceptional at making saves on the street corner at about 1 a.m. after an evening out.
There's been some interesting things in actually Vancouver specifically, where we work hard, we have fun at this event, and it's critical everyone gets a chance to try the gear, but the hockey shop guys like to put us through our paces in the evening as well.
So what does this event mean to Bauer, Tendyfest?
We call this our Christmas. It's a chance, it's the first time our full fleet is out. We get feedback from the kids. B, it's fun to be here in this atmosphere where I think the hockey shop guys do a good job of bringing yourselves like InGoal in, some mask painters, creating a trade show atmosphere instead of just trying the gear and talking about it. I think the guys have elevated the event status.
Yeah, and I think for us, it's a huge difference maker for mom and dad who go into a store, and you know what, goalie equipment's a big ticket item, and being able to take a lot of the questions out, so they see their son or daughter go over to the table, try the stuff, get it on ice, and then they come back and they go, "Mom, absolutely love it." It takes a lot of the angst out of it, because dropping $2,000 on a new set of gear can be a little scary sometimes. So being able to know that they're confident and they understand the sizing and what colors or the fit and the feel, that they know that they're definitely getting the proper direction.
And we've seen you guys. I mean, we see the size of the fleet here. I mean, you know, you guys have kind of driven that volume in terms of bringing that much equipment. Has it been important because the product was so different when you went to 1S, because it did not look or feel like another pad, to make sure you give people this opportunity to test it?
Exactly. And as a category, we've always led in stick, skate, and mask. So we said if we want to truly get after pads and gloves, often we're switching someone out of another brand. And it's like buying a car. You wouldn't buy a new car without ever test driving it. So we want to make sure we have all the sizing, make sure no one's disappointed and missing out on a size. And on-ice advantage is huge when you can try it, feel how it seals, feel how it moves, and feel how it fits, and that's a big advantage for us.
I do hide the shipping bills from Mark because the fleet is so big. So I do that I tuck away, because it is about, when it's all said and done, it's about 43 bags.
Yeah, we saw them loading up the van, the hockey shop, and they said they had more on Instagram. And it was like, I was a little jealous. And I don't get jealous because I've got a lot of gear in my garage. I don't get jealous very often, but I was like, wow, that's a lot of gear. It's a big investment for you guys. Let's talk a little bit about this guy, Andrei Vasilevsky, before we give away a stick. What's it like to work with him? Some people may have seen the save we posted on Instagram yesterday. Like, that guy's just, I think my hip came out of its socket watching that save.
Athlete-wise to watch, he's fantastic, but almost an even better person.
Yeah.
He's just as much into the gear as the kids are. When we do our photo shoots, he's always checking out other stuff. He came into the office and he saw something sitting there, and he's like, a mini stick for his nephew. He's like, so in touch with the gear and so in touch with the game, and he's very competitive, but he loves the game. So he's almost, I think for us, a huge ambassador for what we want to get to on the ice and off the ice, because he's been fantastic.
He's also got a great sense of humor. Like, he's fun to work with. Like, we did the athlete event, so every summer we bring all of our top key athletes into one arena, and then we basically try to do all of our photo shoot for the year. And when we pitched the idea for like the Philly cheesesteak, kind of the My Bauer video, and he was like all for it. He got like right in the kitchen. Like we had to change his jersey twice because he was going so hard at it. He got grease and everything all over his jersey, and he's been awesome to work with. Like, he's always open to things, and like the second we're done shooting something, like you'll take a photo, he'll like run to the camera and he'll look at it and be like, "Can I send that to my dad?" Like, immediately. So like, he's been super awesome.
And I guess more importantly, he still tolerates you. Is that do we have an issue with Henrik Lundqvist, I've heard?
This is actually my fault.
Yeah, this is Mark.
So, Henrik is just as good to work with. He's very professional. He has a lot of great ideas with the gear and the marketing. But when Odin first launched, I had a silly idea of doing a Christmas box opening reveal in the room as his first graphic set, because we switched the graphic halfway through. So I said, hey, why don't we wrap it with wrapping paper, and Spenny, go have him film Henrik shooting the gear.
So, yeah, we were basically like, oh, it's such a good idea. So 2 days out, I fly into New York. He has a tough game, gets pulled late in the game, nothing too crazy. The day before we go to shoot, they play again. They play against New Jersey. They're up 3-0. So it's like, feeling a little tired, a lot of travel. So I was like, okay, I'll go to bed. I wake up the next morning. They got blown out 7-3, and he got pulled again. And now the
first time in his career,
pulled again, and the team scheduled an off day. No players or anyone going to the rink, but he was still going to come in. So he was totally professional about it, but you could tell that he was not overly pumped to see me. So now every time we do a photo shoot, he just kind of is like, "Hi."
Oh, that guy.
Okay, thanks. So excited.
You're still here.
Yeah,
exactly. Mark asks that all the time.
Skates, sticks, gloves, pads. What's your next priority?
So right now we're finishing up 2020 and we're focused on 2021. We have advanced teams looking very farther out. So coming up next is also masks. So we have a very important mask business. So we're focusing on that. Always looking at what the next stage of gear is, but looking at masks for the next stage of our innovation plans.
Ladies and gentlemen, the guys from Bauer, Spencer and Mark.
Thanks a lot for having us on.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Those two have a good little thing going. Like they play off each other and just carve each other, chirp each other nonstop. It might be worth like one of your little car rides, Woody, to just hook up with Mark and Spencer and go for a lap around town and just have them beak each other.
That sounds like an idea for Tendyfest 5.
Or you could just drive out to the hockey shop with them and let them beak each other.
That's right. It could next time it'll replace our trip to the hockey shop, which isn't going to happen this week. For those who haven't figured out, this entire podcast is basically the hockey shop's weekly gear segment, especially that Bauer one. So the good news is that's good for them. The entire thing is about Tendyfest 4 and all our guests from the live podcast at Tendyfest 4 that was brought to you by the hockey shop. The bad news is, or I guess depends how you look at, no Cam this week. No sit down with Cam. Bad news for me because I don't get to go into the hockey shop in person to have our weekly gear segment. It's been replaced by Mark and Spencer. But, you know, hey, it's a week off for Cam. So he gets a week off. I don't get to go to the hockey shop. But I think you guys saw in person this week why I go to the hockey shop, Source for Sports in Surrey, why so many goalies around the entire lower mainland go to the hockey shop, Source for Sports in Surrey. What you saw at Tendyfest 4 is very representative of what they're all about. The knowledge that they have to coordinate an event like this and make sure that every goaltending need is taken care of. And as much as we talked about the big names and the big brands, and yes, they have all that, we saw the skate sharpening and profiling specialist telling goaltenders, informing goaltenders about that. We saw the mask painting. Mark Dekanich, who's going to be on the podcast, in there talking about training and goalie-specific training. Like, they really do make it a big event, and they show just how much they understand the position, gear, and beyond. And that's why I shop at the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports in Surrey, and that's why you should shop at thehockeyshop.com. I love the event, love Tendyfest, because it gives goalies, as we've heard from these guys, a chance to get out there and test all this new gear. It's only once a year. If you missed it, you still have the opportunity to tap into their expertise anytime at the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports, or thehockeyshop.com.
An admission by me, Cam is more normal than I thought, than I was expecting. Like
what about the head? What about the head size?
The head's bigger. I could see where it's grown a little bit. There's a couple of stretch marks on the side where, since he's been started to do the interviews, it's inflated. The hissing that you'll sound every now and then, or hear every now and then during these interviews from the live podcast, was from the airbrush painter behind us. It wasn't from Cam's head deflating because he wasn't on the stage. Also want to make that clear. I really wish people could see Hutch's head during the course of these conversations too, his face, because you've got some of the greatest reactions of all time. You're a terrible poker player.
A terrible poker player. Well, we haven't tried yet.
But we are going to get you in on this thing. Before
I missed that one too, because they had 4 headsets, so I respectfully bowed out of it. Let you guys do the chat, because I'd already spoken to Bauer.
Talk to Spencer and Mark about the skins on the pads and what you can make your pads look like, and that was a great comparison and analogy, Woody, about the masks. Like, used to be what you would do, and now you've got so much more room to really personalize your look as a goaltender. But what would you guys put on your pads? Because we're very familiar with our mask themes. Mine's always a mallard with different iterations of it. And Woody, you have Woody on the chin and
Woody
and Hutch on
the
chin.
Yeah, and I got Woody. I got old school Woody Woodpecker on my old one too as well. Like wearing vintage. I think one side is him wearing a set of vintage gear, and the other side is in the Jacques Plante pose with the black eye and the bloody nose. So
nice.
Yeah, we have a little fun with that one.
So what do I get? I get a piece of furniture on my mask.
That or a sieve.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
What would you put on your front of your pads if you guys rolled out a new set of Bauer,
I think it would have to be
the 2X Pros.
giant InGoal magazine logo for starters. But
for sure.
Wow.
honestly, like think about it. Like I have thought about it. Like would I? I've played for the same beer league team for a number of years. We have Seahawks themed uniforms, and they're pretty tight. Like if I do say so myself. And full shout out, we never talk about this with the Hockey Shop Source for Sports, but they do team gear as well, and they're the ones that handled our Seahawks-esque hockey jerseys, and they just killed it. So
Yeah, they are good.
Yeah,
I've seen them. They are
for
good.
all your needs for that, you can get that from the Hockey Shop too. So shameless plug that wasn't planned. I'd be tempted to match that. I mean, obviously I'm in Vancouver. I'm a huge Seahawks fan. Love the green, love, sort of that bright, almost neon green. That would be tempting. But beer league teams don't last forever. Even if I've played on it for 10 years, eventually they're going to get tired of my act and find a younger, actual capable goaltender to replace me. So, it's tough. The one thing I'd be tempted to do, and we saw it there on site, Jiggy set, Mark Gignac set, the vintage retro. We saw Elvis Merzlikins with something similar. As a matter of fact, there might be a tie-in between Jiggy set and Merzlikins I saw somewhere. So I'd be tempted on the retro, but I'd probably somehow try and go personal touch. I'm not doing the giant Woody Woodpecker like my mask, but somehow, yeah, it would be fun.
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that question. I never thought about it before, but I have to be honest. The first time I saw some images of retro gear, maybe it was Freddie Anderson's, I thought, man, they really hadn't hit the mark. And then I saw this stuff in person at Tendyfest, and I actually think they really nailed it. It's one case where in person really outstrips what you can see in a photo. I loved it. So I'd have to say I've got Ken Dryden on the side of my helmet. So maybe I would see if I could replicate the old Ken Dryden Bourdon pads that I always wanted when I was a kid.
You know what I was thinking is just putting my skinny little pale legs on there. have them coming down and make it look like they're just shooting on
in Hawaiian shorts.
With the legs instead of them looking like pads, these little bow twigs.
So it's an expensive experiment.
I got to be honest, for me that would be too many flashbacks to Little League, because I tend to run a little pale, and one of our Little League All-Star teams had the white pants with the stripes. And all the kids were like, Woodley, why don't you put on some pants? So clearly that stung, and I'm a little scarred by it. So I wouldn't be able to go that road there. Too many bad memories.
No limit. Well, it has to be acceptable. PG basically. But very little limits when you look at your skin on the 2X Pro and the Bauer line. One more segment to come here from the InGoal Radio podcast and the live podcast at Tendyfest, and we were happy to be joined by a guy that played a decade pro, a guy from the Vancouver area, and is embarking on a second career. And Hutch, I'm pleased to announce that you joined us for this one.
Oh, thanks for letting me join today.
Yeah, we thought we'd roll it out. And I thought you brought some really cool, unique thoughts to this conversation with former pro goaltender, now trainer, Mark Dekanich.
On the stage here at the InGoal Radio podcast, live podcast edition with Millard, Woody, and Hutch, and Mark Dekanich. I always wanted to call you Dekanich.
Dekanich.
How many people screw up your name?
Plenty.
Yeah. What's the worst incarnation announcement that you've heard?
Oh, geez.
The KHL?
No, they were pretty good over there, because I played in Croatia, and it's a Croatian name, so they were good. It does look weird when it's in Cyrillic, but I don't know. People adding a V in there, Dekanich and stuff like that.
Sounded like it needed one.
Yeah.
Your career. Take us through. You're a Vancouver guy, but take us through your journey.
Born and raised in North Van. Played my minor hockey at Burnaby Winter Club. Won the Western Canadian Championships as a 15-year-old in Bantam, and then walked on to the Coquitlam Express when I was 16, made the team. Spent 2 seasons there. My second year, early on, I ended up getting a full-ride scholarship to Colgate University, where I went and played for 4 years. Graduated in 2008, but during my second season, my sophomore year there, ended up getting drafted by the Nashville Predators. And once I graduated in 2008, I turned pro.
What was? How would you sum up your pro career?
Long.
Yeah.
No, I ended up playing 10 years in a lot of different places. Logged thousands and thousands of miles and hours on buses, planes, cars, all that stuff.
Are you a goalie nerd, or are you a?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think most of us are. Always loved equipment, loved gear, loved designing my masks. I'd always try to. Sometimes I'd even send in my own drawings to the painter for my masks because I was so particular about what I
was
liked.
on them? What was your?
I had a long time. A lot of my career, I had Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory, the cartoon on there. So my nickname's Dex. And later on, just went into crazy stuff. The last mask I wore had it was one of those like mask on a mask. So like an old school goalie mask on with a beard coming out the bottom that was painted on the mask, and then my real beard hung out from my mask also. So that was probably my favorite lid that I wore.
And as a gear guy, you were always a Brian's guy. So you had, or not
I
always,
was a Vaughn guy.
Vaughn guy, and then a Brian's guy late. So you had some pretty funky designs towards the end.
Yeah. Played for a couple teams with really cool color schemes, so that was fun. Like when I was in Milwaukee, getting that baby blue, black and baby blue, an awesome combo. And then, moving to Brian's the last couple seasons of my career, they're able to do anything. So had a lot of fun designing that stuff.
Nice.
What are the lessons from a 10-year pro career as you look back? If you're talking to a young goaltender,
you got to have fun.
Advice?
You got to have fun. Even though it's our job, a lot of us tend to get wrapped up in, getting stressed out about your job and all that type of stuff. But if you're not having fun, it's not worth it anymore. So trying to sit back sometimes and enjoy the game itself and thinking about that we're playing a sport for a job, and that's something pretty special. So having fun all the time, whether you're a kid or whether you're an adult, I think it's the most important thing when it comes to sports in general.
Came to mind, as you said, you played for the Burnaby Winter Club, and no secret that they've got powerful teams most years. If you got a young goaltender, where do you want him to play? On that team that's going to win so many games, or on the team that's taking 60 shots a night? Somewhere in between?
We're talking about my own kids?
If your own kids are goaltenders.
I'll tell them to play golf instead.
Good answer.
No, I think it's tough because you want your children to develop, and they need to sometimes struggle with that. And if you're on a team that you see 10 shots a night and get a shutout every game, you're not really going to face much adversity, right? And there's no time to learn and adapt. So I think as kids age and their teams will sort of cycle, whether they're good or bad, I think that's important. It's just being on a broad range of good or bad teams.
You've had a lot of different coaching influences. I know locally during your career, you worked with Sean Murray. You mentioned being drafted by the Nashville Predators. Of course, that meant time with Mitch Korn. I don't know if you'll go full Mike McKenna for us and do a Mitch Korn impersonation like he did. That can be a dangerous thing. What are some of the what was it like working with Mitch Korn? And what are some of the influences on your career? I know Scott Murray, when you were with Hershey, now the goalie coach for the Washington Capitals, was a big influence. Some of the different guys over the years, who stands out? And for what reason?
Obviously Mitch. He I started off my pro career working with Mitch in Nashville. He's a phenomenal man. Just the way he's able to develop relationship with his goalies, I think, is the most important thing. And it's something that you'll find with all successful goalie coaches, especially at that level, is that it's not always about the technical aspects of the game. It's developing relationships with your players, checking in with them. How are they doing? Stuff like that. During that same time period, I got to work with Mike Valley, my first year pro in Milwaukee. Mike Valley was a guy. Mike Valley was then in Dallas for the last however many years. Ben Vanderklok, also when I was with Nashville, my second and third year in Milwaukee, worked with him. Now he's the head coach or head goalie coach for the Preds. Spent a year in Columbus. I got to work with Ian Clark. Ended up being hurt most of that year. So basically, I got bagged by Ian Clark for a whole year. But again, that's another huge name. We have him here now in Vancouver. And then again, going on, you mentioned Scott Murray when I was with in the Washington's organization. Awesome guy. He's head guy in Washington now. Got to work with that bald man over there, Brady Robinson, when I was in Lehigh Valley Phantoms organization. So he's Philly's assistant guy. Tried to, over the course of my career, just pick up as much as possible from each one. Everyone's good for at least some small piece of information. So trying to pick up little pieces from everybody that I interacted with.
Now, you retired last year, so this is your first year not playing.
Yep.
All those goalie coaches that you worked with over the years, you didn't decide to follow in their footsteps. You've decided to go a different route. You're now training young goaltenders. Why that path? What about your career took you in that path? And what are you looking forward to? What are you enjoying about it now?
Well, one, I love building awareness about things we can do to make your sport easier or better. And I think I built a lot of my career based on my physical abilities that I trained really hard for outside of the rink. I sort of made a name for myself in that way, as I'd be first in fitness testing every training camp I went to. And at the time, it was just shocking for a goalie to destroy players on some of this stuff. And I was that guy. So I want to try to help kids develop that instinct and work ethic off the ice. It's not always what we do on the ice, but what we do off the ice that can help keep us healthier for longer, improve performance, all that type of stuff. And also just get yourself noticed.
We've heard a lot. We've talked a lot about injuries and injury prevention. I know you also know Stefan Sigalet as well. Hips are a big topic of discussion. How much of what you do, especially with young kids, is preventative in terms of being in shape to limit your exposure to some of those injuries that are caused by repetition?
Yeah, so obviously hockey, and specifically being a goalie, the physical demands of it are almost counterintuitive to everything else that we do as humans. So like squatting, lunging, hinging, stuff like that. We don't see it in hockey. All we see is this gross movement of internal hip rotation and like lots of stress on knees and ankles. So helping to get kids out of always making that butterfly pattern when they're doing other things, I think is important. So building up strength around the hip in general, but then also training in those sort of not ideal positions that we have to put ourselves in goalies to create some more strength and resiliency in those tissues.
And what have you done? Like, done some coursework, done some so you get certifications. It's not just, hey, I played, I trained, I was in good shape, I'm going to train goalies. You've done some work to make sure you're prepared for this.
Yeah, I definitely have the education for it.
Is that from Colgate? Is that all?
No, that's a liberal arts school. So I was a history major in school.
Okay.
So lots of reading and writing, but I think that
that doesn't help the goal.
That bodes well for me now, and all I read is strength conditioning textbooks. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm a certified personal trainer through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. I also just recently took the functional range conditioning system certification, so I'm a certified mobility specialist for them. That course is really eye-opening in the way that they look at the human body and how our joints need to be able to move. And it's true what they say about if you don't use it, you lose it. So that's something that I try to pride myself on and get my athletes to do every day, is take their joints through full range of motion every single day to help maintain where they're at, and then we'll do some extra specific work to build up some more strength in those range of motion that we need playing hockey.
I'm all about the takeaways. So what's the takeaway for a coach or a parent, especially from a goalie-specific standpoint? I mean, quite often we see minor hockey coaches, the whole team has to do the same thing. It's not necessarily the best thing anyway. What could they be doing to think about their goaltenders a little bit better?
Yeah, I think obviously there's a little bit extra stress on the specificity of training for goalies. Being strong in the positions that we need to create on the ice is super important. But also, you get kids that have only played goalie their whole life, they're going to be lacking in some of those other fundamental movement skills, like I talked about before, squatting, hinging, stuff like that. So doing work off ice can help bridge the gap and fill some of those buckets that they don't necessarily get playing hockey. But I think it's important for athletic development in general, and then which is going to transfer to improved performance on the ice.
Question that we had in listener emails was, best way to warm up if you're a beer leaguer? Do you stand in there and take the 5 shots, and 3 of them are coming at one time, and try to get a feel for the puck, that kind of thing? Or do you just go off to the side? What would
I do? I'd drink 5 beers first.
Nice.
And then lube it up from the inside. No.
We got some of Nanaimo's finest beer league tendies right here, so you can answer it to them.
I would ensure that I'm doing something before I even get on the ice to warm my body up, right? So you want to increase your heart rate, increase your core temperature, and then prep your nervous system for playing a sport. So some rapid feet on the ground, trying to excite your nervous system so you're prepared for the explosive movements that we need to do. And then once we get on the ice, me personally, if I had 3 shots coming at the same time, I just get off to the side and do my own warm up and visualize it.
Yeah.
Or shoot pucks back at the players.
Yeah.
So one of those 2 things. But I think doing stuff before you get on the ice needs to be part of a warm up.
Okay.
For any level, because especially if you're playing beer league, you don't want to get hurt and not be able to go to work because you got hurt playing beer league hockey, right? So you got to prepare yourself for that. And then once you're warm, you get on the ice, do your thing. If you want to take shots, great. I wouldn't take more than 1 puck at a time.
So just to be clear for somebody who may or may not be on this stage, getting your heart rate up and warming up your body, drinking a Red Bull while turning on the heated seats on the way to the rink isn't enough for that?
That's a good start. The heated seats are a great start.
That's why you needed the new car. Now
The new car has got a massager built into the
there you
seats.
go,
So that's
your rolling out.
That's my dynamic warm up.
Yeah. Yeah, dynamic. You're not moving, but the seat's moving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's explain the beard?
The beard. I've had this beard now for over 5 years. I used to have really long flow when I was in university and loved it, but I was starting to go bald at like 21, 22. And after my wife saw some of our wedding pictures of us cutting the cake and you could see my skull through my hair, it was time to cut it short. So I ended up shaving it. And then I was like, I can't have any good hairstyle, so I'm just going to grow a massive beard. And I love it. It sort of became my thing. And I got to keep it now because I'll scare my kids if I shave it off.
So you're suggesting wives like it if you're going bald on top, if you grow a nice long beard?
100%.
Just checking.
Not getting a lot of support from the back of the room there, Hutch.
This has been fun. We'll get you back on the podcast
awesome.
again, but good luck with everything.
Thanks, and where can people find you, for especially a lot of audience in the Vancouver area for the off ice training for goals?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at DeckShow. That's my personal account. My website for my training business, www.deckshowhighperformance.com. So DEX showhighperformance.com.
Perfect. We'll get some stuff on social media up there for you too. Thanks for taking the time, Mark.
Guys, thanks for having me.
Difficult to describe the beard I'm talking about from Mark, but it's Brent Burns, Joe Thornton, right in that league. I mean, it is massive. It is mangy. It's work. I don't know how you ever play with it. Get your chin in there. I don't know what I should ask him whether he used a sling or not. But that thing's nasty, Hutch. You want one of those?
But not nasty, but like he keeps it tight though, right? Like
I was
going to
say it's summertime pretty. Yeah,
it's
well cared for.
Yeah, it's more Joe Thornton than Brent Burns. I think Burns is a little sort of mangy wild dog type thing. And Dex keeps keeps it tight, man. You see on his Instagram, like there's a lot of product in that thing. He keeps her smooth and clean. That's a project.
And Hutch, you want one?
Well, I mean, you just saw that I got excited during the podcast when I heard why he grew the beard, and of course, my wife was manning the InGoal booth, looking straight at us as I looked for approval to grow the large mangy beard, and was shot down very quickly. So I won't be making up for my lack of head hair with some facial hair.
And I couldn't grow a beard like that, so I'll just be content with the fact I have a full head of hair on top. Sorry, Hutch.
No, there's no way. I mean, I've gone a couple of months, and it's not even close.
Scraggly, sparse, like just embarrassing if I try.
Embarrassing. Thanks to Jill too for helping us out when we had to jump on the stage.
Absolutely.
The one or two times that we decided to let Hutch there. And
did you guys call her mom?
Join us.
Did you guys call her mom?
No. We wouldn't dare do that. But we will refer to you as Pops. Hey, there was a couple of times where it was hard to concentrate while we were on the stage doing the live podcast because people are coming and going with all kinds of gear. And do you remember, Hutch? It was right in the middle of the Dekanich interview. Somebody walked by with a set of E-Flex 4 pads.
Oh,
and they were gorgeous. And you and I were looking at each other going, those are sweet. And I totally forgot. Dekanich stopped talking, and I thought, oh, where are we going from here? Because I was paying more attention to the CCM pads that were going by.
Yeah, it's not the first time we've seen some E-Flex 4s, but done up in that beautiful blue and orange, it was they were a thing of beauty.
You know you're a goalie geek
when yeah, could have stopped the whole show there.
I know, and it was, but that was one of the cool things. I mean, CCM had this wild array of patterns and color schemes, and it was like walking around. It was like walking around a showroom.
Yeah, and I think like we talked about the Bauer having the huge demo fleet. They set the standard. CCM has done a really nice job of following it. Making sure that there's enough gear there for everybody to try and obviously a big push for them was the skates. You saw it there. They gave away a set of the FT2, I can never say it, the JetSpeed FT2 skates with a custom fitting. They had the 3D imaging out there to do the custom scan so you can get your custom molded feet, which makes a nice segue for us at InGoal Mag. Make sure you check out the website and the social this week into next week, as we'll have a closer look at the process and the skate itself as our reviews continue to run hot and heavy at InGoalMag.com.
And our friend, you guys know her a lot better than I do, but one of the cool things, got to hang out with Kaylee from CCM, and that was cool. I mean, she's a big part of the CCM goal line, and she was down. Like, this is a person high up in CCM and goal, and she's down there fitting people and like in the trenches with everybody.
Yeah, no, that was really cool to see. And actually, I think it kind of has a nice carryover from our visit to CCM, right, Hutch? We talked about having been there in Montreal with them last week and how we all think of them as this big, huge company, and yet the goalie department's quite small. And it's really got a family feel to it. And you saw that with Kaylee on site. The only downside was we didn't get to talk to her too much because she was so busy hands-on talking to goalies about how to properly fit and how to properly size their gear and making sure they were out there in stuff that fit them and making sure the turnover was happening as all these goalies lined up to get their gear. She was helping, get them through that process and out on the ice. So, again, just another reminder of the type of company they are too.
All hands on deck.
And there's Alex All just standing there answering questions. Guy that's played in the NHL for years, and he's just hanging out. And he's going to join us next week, right?
And that'll be a continuation. We had so many good guests, we had to break it into two parts. A continuation of the Tendyfest 4 InGoal magazine, radio, podcast presentation, part 2 next week with Alex J. Ald and Pete Smith from Warrior. Some good stories there.
That was a really fascinating conversation for me because I follow Pete forever. Just if people want to get in touch with us, Hutch, it was great to meet all our listeners and create some new relationships through Tendyfest 2019 and get in touch and find out what people are liking about the podcast, some things that they might want to hear from or about in the future. So those that weren't able to get to Tendyfest can get in touch with us how?
Well, we've had lots of conversations since with people on social, so you can hit us up on the DMs on Instagram at InGoal Mag or Twitter at InGoal Media. And, of course, podcast at InGoalMag.com. That's podcast at InGoalMag.com.
Somebody stopped by the booth and said, who's the guy that does those deep, big,
they did not
solid radio voice ads about the contact information? And so I pointed to Hutch, and they said, geez, I thought he'd be bigger.
He's big. He's just not tall.
Guys, thanks for that. Look forward to next week and part 2 from Tendyfest. It was a fabulous weekend to spend with you guys. We got to catch up and do some really cool brainstorming and just chatting about goaltending. Seeing Woody in the middle of a restaurant demonstrating puck tracking was one of the highlights. I can't believe he didn't send a tray of beer flying.
Not the first time either. Not the first time either. We're going to have a whole series of Woody on his knees in the restaurant demoing goalie technique.
And I flew back and went basically right from the airport to my men's league game, and had all these thoughts flying around in my head about puck tracking, and was fueled, motivated by all the gear. And I went out there and I was terrible because Woody had me so messed up trying to take all this into my head and translate it onto the ice. So I blame you for my 6-5 loss.
And absolutely right there is the answer every time someone asks me, "Hey, have you ever thought about goalie coaching?" Nope.
It's the age-old philosophy that goalie coaches tell us all the time. Do your work, put your effort in, and then when it comes time to perform, like this podcast, and like when you step on the ice to play a game, don't think. And we're trying to follow through on that, especially when we perform on the podcast. For the likes of the guys at Bauer, Spencer and Mark Dekanich and Tristan Jarry, along with Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison, I'm Darren Millard. Thanks for listening to InGoal Radio, the podcast, and we love to hear your thoughts about what you saw, you heard, and what you'd like to see again from Tendyfest next year.